What if a quiet evening walk ended not with a return home, but with a nightmare that would echo across 2 continents? Rachel Morrin was a 37-year-old mother of 5, a fitness lover, a friend, a sister, a daughter. She was known for her warm smile, her energy, and the way she cared for those around her. On a warm August evening, she tied up her sneakers, kissed her children goodbye, and set out on her favorite trail. She never came back. In less than a day, that peaceful walking path would turn into the focus of a violent homicide inquiry, an investigation that would last for months and take detectives from Maryland to El Salvador. At the center of everything was one hidden hint: DNA. This is the case of Rachel Morrin, the mother, the mystery, and the murder that haunted a community until 2025. Bel Air, Maryland, a community with a population of nearly 11,000 residents. A location where neighbors greet each other from their doorsteps, paths cross through tranquil forests, and serious crime is nearly non-existent. It's a community established on habit, confidence, and the implicit fact that bad events happen in another place. Rachel Morrin blended perfectly into that scene. At 37, her friends portrayed her as lively, compassionate, and brimming with enthusiasm. She was passionate about fitness, posted her runs on social media, and valued life with her 5 kids. She had just started dating a new boyfriend, Richard Tobin, and outwardly, everything seemed fine. Yet under that routine facade, there were subtle weaknesses. Rachel maintained a regular running routine, identical path. To an untrained eye, that reliability seemed harmless. But was it? On the evening of August 5, 2023, shortly after 6 p.m., Rachel informed Richard that she was going for a jog. She stopped her car close to the William Street access of the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail, a picturesque 6-mile circuit, and started her run as the sun set. As darkness set in and Rachel had yet to come back, Richard became worried. At 11:23 p.m., he notified the Harford County Sheriff's Office that she was missing, prompting a swift search by the community. The following morning, volunteers, relatives, and law enforcement searched the path. The expansive forested region was vast, yet Rachel's vehicle remained close to the entrance, a foreboding indication that she hadn't departed. Within 24 hours of her disappearance, a volunteer exploring off the main trail made a chilling find. Rachel's body was discovered in a drainage culvert located nearby just off the trail. Sheriff Jeff Galler verified what numerous people already suspected. Rachel Morrin had suffered a brutal murder. Authorities did not disclose specifics of the assault, but it was clear this was not merely a theft or an incident. It was unbelievable. The town was devastated by the news of the discovery. Paths that were once bustling with runners became quiet. Inhabitants secured their entrances. Speculation and critics began to circulate on the internet. As the community grieved, detectives started discreetly assembling the clues. Forensic teams gathered samples, fingerprints, and fibers at the location. Included in the evidence was a DNA profile that did not correspond to anyone in local, state, or federal databases. Whoever carried this out was a phantom, at least for the time being. Detectives expanded their search. They spoke with Rachel's partner, Richard, who had a history of criminal activity, including previous arrests for domestic violence. For numerous people online, he became the prime suspect. However, his alibi was verified, and there was no DNA correspondence. It was a misleading clue. As summer gave way to autumn, the case appeared to halt. However, in reality, detectives were silently anticipating a breakthrough. That breakthrough would occur not in Maryland, but 2,000 miles away, in a nation few anticipated being linked to Rachel's path. With each passing week, irritation increased. The police had DNA, but lacked a match. They experienced fear in the community, yet no suspect was identified. Tip lines were filled with theories, online investigators analyzed every detail, and the case started to draw national interest. Sheriff Jeff Galler of Harford County conducted press conferences calling for patience. In the background, the FBI became involved in the inquiry, processing the DNA in national and global databases. Nothing. The person who murdered Rachel appeared to have no criminal record in the U.S., or so it seemed. Investigators started creating a timeline. Rachel was last spotted on the path at approximately 6 p.m. Her vehicle stayed parked all night. Deep within the trail, there were no surveillance cameras, only a few close to the entrances. The video displayed runners, dog owners, bikers, but nothing distinctly indicating a murderer. The inquiry turned towards local suspects. They were interrogated. Residents in the area were questioned. Sex offenders in a specific area were matched with the DNA. All the results returned negative. In September 2023, detectives got an essential update from the FBI. The DNA located at Rachel's crime scene corresponded with another unresolved case. This one not in the United States, but in El Salvador. The connection tied Rachel's murderer to the home invasion and sexual assault of a mother and her daughter in March 2023 in La Libertad, El Salvador. The assaults were violent, and while the perpetrator had fled, forensic teams gathered DNA. Recently, the identical genetic fingerprint was found in rural Maryland. This altered the entire situation for investigators. They were confronting more than just a regional threat. They confronted an individual who had crossed boundaries and murdered once more. Detectives from Harford County collaborated with Interpol and officials from El Salvador to identify potential suspects who had arrived in the U.S. following the attack in El Salvador. Airline itineraries, immigration documents, and criminal activity records were examined. Yet, no name. As this global situation evolved, the case garnered increased media coverage. For months, rumors persisted regarding Rachel's partner, Richard Tobin. His history of criminal behavior made him an easy target for suspicion, even though police publicly claimed he wasn't thought to be involved. This was one of the most misleading aspects of the case. In the meantime, forensic specialists persisted in examining the crime scene. The position of the body, away from the main trail, inside a drainage culvert, indicated that the murderer either was familiar with the terrain or acted on impulse and moved her body off the path. No obvious indications of a vehicle in the vicinity. No personal belongings taken. This wasn't concerning theft. It was deliberate aggression. In the following months, detectives obtained numerous leads. Some were cul-de-sacs, others needed weeks of follow-up. Several possible suspects were questioned, including an individual observed lingering near the trail in early August. His DNA underwent testing. No match found. By the start of 2024, the inquiry had mostly subdued, at least in the public eye. However, the DNA connection to El Salvador remained the most significant lead. The working theory became this. The suspect had illegally entered the United States shortly after the March assault, settled somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic region, and attacked Rachel at random during her evening jog. What do you think investigators should have done at this stage? With DNA pointing overseas, but no name attached, would you have gone public with that information earlier, or waited as they did? Let us know in the comments. At the start of 2025, following months of hush, the breakthrough eventually occurred. Salvadoran officials collaborating with U.S. Marshals pinpointed a suspect using DNA links from extended family and information from local sources. His name, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. Martinez Hernandez was already on the wanted list in El Salvador for the home invasion and sexual assault that occurred in March. Investigators discovered that he had illegally entered the United States shortly after and was thought to be residing somewhere on the East Coast undetected. As soon as his name appeared, U.S. Marshals initiated a manhunt for the fugitive across several states. Martinez Hernandez did not have a permanent residence. He changed residences often, took on off-the-books jobs, and integrated into immigrant neighborhoods. For several months, he succeeded in being one step ahead. Detectives did not disclose information to the public right away. Rather, they discreetly established surveillance systems, tracked phone logs, and identified any potential family members or contacts in the U.S. Eventually, they discovered his digital footprint, a prepaid mobile device and online activity that pointed them south. In June 2025, U.S. Marshals located him in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he was residing with friends. On June 14th, he was taken into custody without any trouble. He first provided a fake name, yet his fingerprints and DNA verified it. The identical man who assaulted a family in El Salvador and murdered Rachel Morrin. Word of the arrest circulated rapidly. For Rachel's family and the Bel Air community, this marked the first significant progress in almost 2 years. The individual who had plagued their community and escaped law enforcement in 2 nations was ultimately apprehended. Officials in Harford County reported that Martinez Hernandez is set to face charges of first-degree murder and first-degree rape in Maryland. The extradition procedure started promptly. For those conducting the investigation, this was a hard-fought victory, a case that hinged on forensic persistence and international cooperation. The prosecution's timeline depicted a distressing narrative. Rachel had left for her regular jog. Martinez Hernandez, unknown to the community, had probably been exploring the area or just came across her on the path. He assaulted her viciously, left genetic material at the location, and escaped Maryland before law enforcement could converge. Officials think Rachel was chosen at random, not followed over an extended period. Martinez Hernandez had no established relationship with her. It was a swift, brutal, and destructive assault. In interviews, Sheriff Jeff Galler of Harford County referred to the investigation as one of the most intricate in the history of the county. Local deputies, state police, the FBI, Interpol, and Salvadoran officials were all connected through a solitary DNA strand. The community's response was varied. Some felt relieved that an arrest was made, others expressed anger that he was able to enter and stay in the U.S., and many felt grief over the tragic loss of Rachel's life. For her family, it marked the initial move towards justice. After taking Martinez Hernandez into custody, detectives started to piece together his activities in the U.S. Witness accounts indicated his presence along the East Coast in the months following Rachel's murder, specifically in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and ultimately Oklahoma. He had merged seamlessly, relocated often, and stayed out of the spotlight. Court filings indicated that his DNA was the only evidence linking him to both offenses. There were no witnesses to Rachel's assault, no recorded video. Lacking the DNA, this case could have stayed unresolved forever. This advancement completely altered the scope of the inquiry. What started as a regional mystery had turned into a worldwide search, relying on forensic expertise, determination, and a touch of fortune. True crime communities online scrutinized each update. Speculations regarding serial conduct emerged. Did Martinez Hernandez partake in other unresolved offenses while he was in the U.S.? Researchers did not eliminate it as a possibility. His violent past indicated that Rachel might not have been his sole victim. Extradition was finalized by the middle of 2025. Martinez Hernandez was moved to Maryland to face trial. Rachel's family participated in court hearings, occasionally addressing reporters about their resolve to pursue justice. For almost 2 years, Bel Air had existed under the threat of an unidentified murderer. At this point, they recognized his name, his appearance, and his offenses. However, the journey towards justice was still not complete. The courtroom fell quiet as Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez was brought in for his arraignment. For the first time, Rachel's family and the community confronted the man charged with her vicious murder. He seemed composed, expressionless. A translator stood next to him as the accusations of first-degree murder and first-degree rape were announced. Prosecutors presented their argument: the DNA connection between Rachel's remains and the attack in El Salvador, the timeline indicating Martinez Hernandez was in Maryland that summer, and his effort to escape through several states. No agreements were presented. If found guilty, he would serve the remainder of his life in prison. Investigators explained how they assembled the case. The forensic DNA match was indisputable. It linked him to both crime scenes with overwhelming certainty. Salvadoran authorities offered accounts regarding the March 2023 home invasion, illustrating a picture of rising violence that led to Rachel's death. The prosecution contended that Martinez Hernandez's motive was straightforward, yet horrifying: exploitative predation. Rachel was unfamiliar with him. She refrained from talking to him. She just happened to encounter a violent man at an unfortunate moment. There wasn't a specific, prearranged scheme for her, yet there was a distinct trend of increasing sexual violence. In their opening statement, prosecutors emphasized the randomness of the attack. Rachel Morrin did everything right. She went for a jog on a well-used trail on a warm summer evening. She didn't know that, just beyond the tree line, someone was waiting. Defense lawyers had limited resources to draw from. Their approach involved disputing the chain of custody of the DNA evidence and questioning the potential for contamination. However, forensic specialists systematically dismantled each assertion, detailing the stringent protocols adhered to throughout the gathering and analysis. Next arrived one of the trial's most impactful moments. Detectives presented a map animation illustrating Martinez Hernandez's journey from El Salvador, U.S. border, Maryland, Oklahoma. It was a visual record of a predator advancing unnoticed until DNA finally identified him. The prosecution did not provide any confession. Martinez Hernandez stayed silent during the entire process. However, they were not in need of one. The evidence left by forensics was sufficient. Observers located him in the Bel Air vicinity that weekend, and his DNA revealed the remainder of the narrative. The jury considered their decision. The proof was indisputable. In a matter of hours, they came back with a conviction on every charge. In the crowded courtroom, Rachel's relatives sobbed softly as the judge delivered the verdict: life in prison without the chance of parole. For numerous individuals, this was the moment of justice they had been eagerly anticipating. After 2 years filled with fear, sorrow, and lingering questions, the individual held accountable for Rachel Morrin's murder was finally held accountable. Outside the courthouse, Harford County Sheriff Jeff Goller addressed reporters. This was a case that tested every level of law enforcement, he said. But in the end, justice prevailed because of persistence, teamwork, and science. Rachel Morrin's murder didn't just shake a small Maryland town. It sparked a nationwide conversation about trail safety, immigration loopholes, and the silent movements of violent offenders across borders. For months after the arrest, debates raged online and on news networks about how a man wanted for a violent assault in El Salvador could enter the United States undetected and stay hidden long enough to kill again. For Rachel's family, though, those conversations were secondary. They focused on honoring her memory. Her sister and mother set up community events to raise awareness for women's safety on trails. A memorial run was organized each August to celebrate Rachel's life and remind people that behind every headline is a real person, a mother, a daughter, a friend. But beneath the closure, there's a deeper question, one that lingers long after the verdict. How many others like Martinez Hernandez are out there, slipping through cracks, moving across borders, waiting for opportunity? And are our systems truly ready to catch them before tragedy strikes again? What do you think? Should international DNA databases be more integrated to prevent crimes like Rachel's? Or does that raise new ethical questions about privacy and surveillance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. This is a debate that touches everyone. Rachel Morrin's story reminds us that evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in the ordinary, revealing itself only when it's too late. But it also shows how persistence, community, and forensic science can bring justice, even across continents. If you found this case as compelling as we did, make sure to subscribe for more deep dive true crime documentaries. And if you want to keep watching, check out our remaining true crime videos. See you next time.